5 women, 5 perspectives, and a pattern that's impossible to ignore. They demand everything from men, but reject any responsibility on their side. Between contradictions, exaggerations, and distorted ideas, what you're about to see isn't equality. It's a completely unbalanced game.
Do you guys think that I'm being misogynistic or sexist?
Yes.
Yes? What was sexist?
I feel like some points you made, as in like the cooking and the cleaning and the constant, like, you know, always being there to take care of you. I feel like that's an expectation that men hold a lot for women. And I just don't agree with that, because I feel like, wouldn't you want your woman to be independent and have her own career and make her own money so that you're not fully, but think about it.
So like when women want men to pay for dates, are they being sexist?
Not necessarily, no.
If it's okay for women to say men should, why can't men say women should? In society, if a man says women should, that's going to be labeled with sexist, misogyny, but there's never this criticism when women say men should.
So who do you think are the biggest enforcers of gender roles, men or women?
Men, because they're more dominant.
Yeah, but who typically pays on a first date?
Men.
Who's typically expected to approach?
Men.
Who typically buys the drinks at nightclubs?
Men.
Who typically gets down on one knee?
Men.
Isn't that all traditional male behavior?
I think a girl loves it, and a girl loves to be chased.
Once again, who are the biggest enforcers of gender roles, men or women?
It's a good question, because women expect it when men don't want to do it all the time. But men get the benefit of going out of their way to do their gender roles.
So would you say that women are the biggest enforcers of gender roles? Would you agree with that?
No.
You said women expect it, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, does a man necessarily have to expect a woman to do traditional things to be with him? Or?
Oh, nowadays, no. Women don't want to cook, clean, provide for the family. It's definitely different. 2026.
So once again, how are women not the biggest enforcers of gender roles?
I don't think they're subtle enforcers. Like, it's expected.
Well, right, but you're saying that women expect men to be in their roles, but women don't want to be in their roles. So to me, that sounds like it is sad, but my point is, it sounds like women are enforcing gender roles more than men are. Is that true?
I guess that makes sense, yeah.
So if women are the biggest enforcers of gender roles, how are women not the biggest enforcers of patriarchy? The very thing they demonize men for.
I don't know. I'm in a healthy relationship, so I can't really speak on that.
This is where the classic contradiction starts. She admits women expect traditional behavior from men, but refuses to acknowledge that this is also enforcing gender roles. They want to be pursued, want men to pay, lead, take initiative, but don't want to fulfill their side. That's not equality, that's convenience. When only one side carries responsibility and the other picks when to participate, the system breaks. Deep down, she sees it. She just doesn't want to accept the conclusion.
The fact that, you know, Manny is younger, and it's very helpful that he's handy. And when we travel, I'm not picking up any bags. He's the one that's hefting them overhead. He throws the garbage out. Right. He does the heavy stuff.
Well, right, Sonny. Plenty of times, every single one of you on this show slammed men and called them misogynists for saying that they prefer women who clean, cook, and take care of the children. Yet now you just praised some of men's duties, like picking up your bags and taking out the trash. So to me, it sounds like you have no issues with gender roles when it benefits you.
I saw this video yesterday of this guy, and it had like 100,000 likes, and what he was saying wasn't like anti-woman at all, but he was saying it's in men's blood to want to build a house, and it's in women's blood to want to make a home. And that's just literally not true. It's like gender genetic determinism. It's like gender realism. It's like 90% of that feeling, it's not in our blood actually at all. And 90% of that is just societally and socially constructed to make you think that that's what a man should do and that's what a woman should do. And all the comments were like, yes, king, yes, king. We're all sheep. We're all sheep.
So you would identify as a feminist, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay.
I think women deserve rights.
Okay.
So my question that you haven't answered
Sure,
was, how do you get your generalizations if you haven't spoken to every single woman on the planet? Because personally, I believe that stereotypes are incredibly harmful and not productive. Oh, yeah. What, your response? No,
I'll let you finish what you have to say.
Yeah, that's what
You're
I
done?
had to say.
Okay. Yeah, so this is another, like, you know, progressive ideology that's kind of retarded. And I'll explain what I mean by this.
Okay.
stereotypes typically are rooted in fact,
Very.
right? Like that's what it is, right? Like if you're walking down the street at night and you see like 3 black dudes walking towards you with Nike fleeces on, you're probably going to cross the street because you don't want to get mugged, right? If you want to hire a lawyer after getting arrested, you're probably going to hire a Jewish lawyer, right? You know, Asians are going to be good at math and do your algebra homework. So it's like...
So you've spoken to every minority on the fucking planet?
Okay, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule.
Right.
But the world operates on generalities. So that's just how it is. Actually, you know what? This is interesting. This is something that women have a tough time understanding, actually. I'm glad this is a perfect example of what I mean. Mm-hmm. So women have a problem with generalities, especially if it doesn't apply to them. So like, let's say, for example, I say something like, yeah, a lot of these girls are sluts or a lot of these girls are dumb. A girl will say, well, I'm not. Like, okay, cool. But that still doesn't override the fact that a majority are. So
What?
Now the discussion shifts into another issue, rejecting generalizations only when they don't benefit you. Everyone uses patterns to understand the world. That's basic. The problem isn't generalizing, it's using it to justify disrespect. But you also can't pretend patterns don't exist just because they're uncomfortable. The main point is that many women reject any collective analysis when it hits close to home, but use those same generalizations when it benefits them. Again, rules for one side, exceptions for the other.
I stay quiet when you females want to talk about gender roles because, quite frankly, I do not like carrying heavy stuff. Like, I really like when my man opens my door, carries my groceries, pays the bills. Like, I very much get to my bag too. But I don't like hard labor. And I like walking down the street with my man because I know that he can fight. I know that he can protect me. Like, I don't want to be fighting for myself. I got a man. So all that ra-ta-ta-ta-ta, no, that shit ain't happening in my house. No, baby, you got this. You're the man. I'm just gonna sit here and be me.
You won't be surprised to know that women are the biggest enforcers of patriarchy. Women are the ones that tell young women that they should marry, that they should stay home with the children, that they should take care of their husbands. They tell women how to dress, how to be, how to act. And those same women know the dangers of patriarchy, of feeling less than, of feeling devalued. So it is going to be women that have the job to dismantle patriarchy. And I understand how we got this way. I mean, again, all of this is passed down from our mothers and our grandmothers. But we are the ones that have to stop passing down patriarchy to young people. We have to show them new ways of thinking and being. And we have to tell that to men and boys too. Boys have to hear this message. But more than anything, girls have to hear this message. So we have the job to dismantle the patriarchy that for generations and generations, women themselves have been enforcing and perpetuating.
Men who love tradwives also hate women. And this isn't just my personal observation, it's a finding of a recent study published in Psychology of Women Quarterly, which examined men's attitudes toward the tradwife movement. The study surveyed around 600 American men aged 18 to 29 about their familiarity with and attitude toward this movement, and whether socio-demographic factors like political affiliation, religion, or race play a role. And while positive attitudes toward tradwives appeared across several demographic backgrounds, with religiosity and being married predicting more favorable views, it was men with higher levels of hostile sexism who were the most likely to support the tradwife movement relative to others. Hostile sexism refers to a more overtly negative set of beliefs about women. This includes, for example, the belief that women's domestic role is much easier than paid employment, that women are inherently less competent, less intelligent, and less skilled. But it also includes the belief that women exploit and take advantage of men, including men who provide for them. In other words, men who want the so-called traditional women are often the same kind of men who look down on women who stay at home, who devalue domestic and care labor and don't really see it as labor at all, and who generally perceive women through a deeply negative lens, including the very women who would meet their ideal. This also shows that it doesn't matter if a woman does everything right according to the patriarchal script of good girl behavior. Your obedience to a system that doesn't see you as equal to men will never ever pay off.
This argument tries to paint every man who values traditional dynamics as someone who hates women, which is just a lazy oversimplification. There's a difference between wanting clear roles and devaluing women. The real issue is something else. Many people want traditional benefits without respecting the effort it requires. And that goes both ways. Reducing everything to men hate women ignores that many women also want provision without reciprocation. The problem isn't the model, it's the imbalance.
Are you a feminist?
Yeah.
So what does that mean to be a feminist?
I support women no matter like what they do.
Do you think women are oppressed in the United States?
No,
Okay, so why are you a feminist?
because that's just what I choose to be. And
That doesn't answer the question.
Why am I a feminist?
Yeah,
Because
what-
I love women.
You can love women and not be a feminist.
Okay, well, I've always considered myself a feminist and will.
What is feminism fighting for?
Just like women's rights, abortion, things like that.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So if it's fighting for women's rights, what right do men have that women don't?
Men have that, women don't?
What is the right that feminists are fighting for?
Right.
To murder their children? Is that it? Is that all you have?
No, it's not about murdering children at all. That's not the way that I view it.
You were saying you're a feminist, abortion rights or whatever. Of course, men don't have any reproductive rights. If the woman wants to keep the kid, the man has no say. The woman wants to get rid of the kid, the man has no say. I believe actually to achieve equality, you either have to give men a way out or you would have to completely roll back any abortion rights whatsoever for there to be equality between men and women.
So I just want to talk a little bit more about the provider husband who is also expected to help out equally in the home. And I'm going to start off with reading a DM that I got. I've noticed a lot of Muslim men who see themselves as providers don't always want the kind of partnership I imagine. I want someone who cooks with me, not helps, and sees home responsibilities as equally his. And I noticed that even when men say that they're okay with that, I feel like a lot of them end up building resentment from providing financially while also equally doing things at home. But then I think of pregnancy and how much that changes things, and that makes me even more conflicted. So I was wondering, how do you achieve balance in this kind of situation or make it work in your perspective? So I addressed this, but I did get a lot of messages and comments about this subject, and so I just want to address some of those. So my perspective is that in a loving relationship, if at any given point there is one person, either the husband or the wife, who is doing much, much more towards the relationship or for the family than the other person, I think that there is something inherently wrong with that. If you care about someone, you should not be looking to saddle them with as much as they're possibly willing to take on because of something that's going to happen in the future, such as pregnancy. Now, should things change once pregnancy and motherhood come into the picture? Of course, dynamics need to be able to be flexible at home, where when someone's capacity goes down, the other partner steps up and picks up the slack. And the other thing is that people are sharing their anecdotal stories about how their father used to do this. They used to provide and then come home and help with household duties, or that their husband does this. And you know what? That's the dynamic shift that we need to see, right? Is that once someone has more on their plate, once your mother had more on their plate, once you had more on your plate, once there were children, and motherhood was involved and pregnancies were involved, then they went and they stepped up and started taking more part in duties. But what happened before the kids were there? What were your parents doing then? What were you doing then? Were you and your husband splitting the dishes when he came home from work? Because I actually have an example of someone who specifically spoke about, hey, I'm going to do one dish, and then when my husband comes home, he is going to wash the other half of the dishes. And honestly, I don't really even need to be given anecdotal examples because I see it all the time, especially with women who contribute to their household, and then they also have the brunt of the household duties that they manage completely on their own. And we don't like that, do we? And that's the entire thing, is that if you don't want this for yourself or your gender, then why would you think that that same thing would be okay for your spouse? And for those weird comments talking about how people are getting you to lower your standards, nobody cares what your standards are. You came to me asking me why you're not able to find provider husbands who also participate equally in duties at home, and I'm just telling you why.
This is where modern confusion shows up, wanting a traditional provider man, but also expecting a perfectly equal split at home all the time. That's not balance, and that's hidden overload. If a man carries the financial burden, it's natural for there to be balance in other areas. Of course, certain moments require flexibility, like pregnancy, but turning exceptions into the rule creates resentment. A relationship isn't perfect accounting, but it also can't be an arrangement where one side always gives more. Balance requires consistency.
If women lie about their past to look traditional, and men lie about their future to look successful, who's more deceptive?
They're equally deceptive, but I feel like men giving false hope does more harm than lying about your past.
Why are men expected to overlook a woman's past more than women will overlook a man's future?
Because you can change, and the past doesn't matter as long as your future is solid.
The lady that got the ick whenever some dude said that one thing that he admired about her was her drive is proof that people don't really want patriarchy to end. Like, there are just so many pseudo-feminists at this point to where I think they just outnumber actual feminists. And like, people who want to dismantle patriarchy and take down gender roles and all this stuff, like, I think those people are in such a minority. And I think that's why all these things that they're talking about are just never gonna happen. Because as much as I think her story was fake, you know, I just don't think a guy is telling a girl, I really like your drive. Like, what? She was making that video to fit into that who's gonna be the boys, oh, he wants to be a princess, all this stuff. And that is literally playing into the hands of patriarchy. Now, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm the hugest advocate of dismantling the system, but it's like, you're definitely not. You know what I mean? Like, most of these women I'm seeing online, like, they're definitely not. Every woman I meet says, oh, a man needs to be doing XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. So I'm just not gonna mold myself to fit the standards of like this like small section of genuine feminists. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the numbers just aren't on their side at the moment. And I don't think that they ever will be. I think that people love rigid gender roles.
Have you noticed in many cultures men have to get married very quickly because they need a woman to take care of them? What does that tell you? That tells you that men need women. Women don't need men. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. We are allowed to say that, okay? Because it is the truth. Women do not actually physically and mentally need men. Women can want men, but they don't need them. There isn't an actual need for men. Like, our safety, our survival, all these things do not depend on having a man. Whereas men do need women, and they need them to take care of them, because a woman protects a man's spirit. And men know this. A lot of men end up dying really miserable and alone and empty because a woman had left them and they just stayed in that house and they just died. Like, now women, on the other hand, that doesn't really exist. You will see an old woman thriving, happy, at peace. She left her husband years ago. She does not care. And in fact, you will find out, you will see that her mental health is better. You will see that maybe her physical health has gotten better. Everything, as soon as she left that man, everything got better. So the reason why I'm telling you that is because women's lives become easier when men leave their lives, okay? A lot of women have autoimmune diseases because of men. A lot of women are in mental asylums because of men. It's always because of men, okay? Not every man. No, my man doesn't do that. Okay, but it's men. It's men, right? Just because your man's not doing that right now doesn't mean that he's not capable of doing that. When we talk about these things, we are talking about a men's psyche. We are talking about how men are wired. We are talking about how these people think and how they function. So I don't care if your man doesn't do it. It doesn't mean that he's not capable of doing it.
This argument is pure emotional exaggeration dressed up as truth. Saying men need women, but women don't need men completely ignores basic human interdependence. Men and women complement each other, period. This idea that everything bad comes from men and everything improves without them is narrative, not analysis. There are bad men, just like women can also cause harm. When you turn half of humanity into the problem, you're not looking for solutions, you're creating division.